Right now, a single sheet of paper containing 14 points sits between Washington and Tehran. In the next 48 hours, it will either end the war in the Persian Gulf or trigger an American bombing campaign more intense than anything we've seen so far. Brokered behind the scenes, with Pakistan acting as the central mediator, the core condition of this ultimatum is absolute. Iran has to agree to ship approximately 400 kilograms of its highly enriched uranium entirely out of the country. To understand how we reached this 0 hour, we have to look at what happened to the April 7th ceasefire. That truce came with an explicit condition that commercial shipping would resume through the Strait of Hormuz. When Tehran kept the waterway closed, the U.S. Navy responded by blockading Iranian ports. The fragile peace officially shattered when Iran fired 15 ballistic missiles and a swarm of drones toward the United Arab Emirates. It was a direct assault that infuriated Washington's closest Gulf allies and erased any remaining illusion of a truce. So this sudden 48-hour countdown to a deal isn't happening in a vacuum. It's the direct consequence of three massive pillars of Iranian power: its military deterrence, its diplomatic cover, and its domestic economy, all collapsing at exactly the same time over the past 72 hours. The first pillar to fall was military. On May 7th, 3 American guided missile destroyers, the Truxtun, the Mason, and the Rafael Peralta, transited the Strait of Hormuz directly into a coordinated, multi-hour Iranian assault. The American warships emerged without a single scratch. Every incoming missile was intercepted, every drone incinerated, and the swarm of fast attack boats that tried to close the distance was sent straight to the bottom of the sea. The United States retaliated immediately. American firepower struck Iranian soil, targeting the command nodes, loading docks, and missile launch sites at Bandar Abbas and Qasem Island, the twin nerve centers of the IRGC's entire naval operation. Washington took a very specific legal stance on these strikes. President Trump characterized the barrage as a proportionate love tap, a self-defense measure that leaves the previous ceasefire technically intact on paper. This exchange proved a devastating reality for Tehran. The U.S. Navy demonstrated it can operate freely in the strait, completely neutralizing the primary military threat Iran relies on to project regional power. While the military deterrence failed, Iran's diplomatic shield evaporated even faster. For weeks, Tehran navigated this conflict by leaning on China, relying on Beijing to buy shadow fleet oil and provide quiet international cover. That arrangement abruptly ended on May 4th. In a massive operational blunder, Iranian forces accidentally attacked the JV Innovation, a Chinese-owned chemical tanker transiting near the UAE. The irony here is hard to ignore. During the early phases of the conflict, China reportedly supplied Iran with anti-ship missile technology. Now, there's a strong likelihood that Chinese supplied technology was used to set a Chinese civilian vessel on fire. The diplomatic fallout hit the very next day. When Iran's top diplomat arrived in Beijing for a scheduled meeting, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi delivered a public, direct demand that the Strait of Hormuz be reopened immediately. This friendly fire incident exhausted Beijing's patience in an instant. It stripped away Tehran's last unspoken guarantee of protection, leaving them entirely exposed on the international stage. Without China's quiet backing, the domestic situation has become dire. The Iranian economy is imploding. Moderates in the government are pushing for a deal as they watch the rial's freefall, inflation nearing 70%, and domestic oil storage overflowing to the point of shutting in wells. But there is a dangerous wild card in play: IRGC hardliners. Sheltering in bunkers across the country, military commanders are receiving a steady diet of highly distorted, fabricated intelligence regarding their performance. State media networks have been running completely false reports, claiming American destroyers fled the Sea of Oman after taking heavy damage. Iranian social media accounts are even circulating AI-generated images as supposed proof of victories that never occurred. The physical reality on the water contradicts all of this. The U.S. Navy maintains a total blockade on Iranian ports, and 15,000 American troops remain deeply entrenched and active in the region. This disconnect creates a terrifying risk for the peace process. A regime leadership that is actively convincing itself it is winning a war it is actually losing might easily miscalculate and reject the only lifeline they have left. Which brings us to the mechanics of the 14-point memorandum. On the left side, Tehran formally commits to surrendering its highly enriched uranium and submitting to immediate UN inspections. In return, the US will gradually lift sanctions and wind down the naval blockade. When this conflict began in late February, Iran had a functioning navy, air capabilities, and the power to dictate terms in the strait. Today, that leverage is gone, erased by American escorts safely guiding commercial traffic past the wreckage of Iranian patrol boats. Washington has made the alternative perfectly clear. If Tehran lets this 48-hour window expire without a signature, the American military will resume bombing operations at a significantly higher intensity than before. The decision rests on an internal power struggle. Which faction makes the final call? Moderates staring down economic ruin, or hardliners blinded by state propaganda? The clock on this ultimatum is rapidly winding down. The next 48 hours will reveal whether reality can pierce the walls of Tehran's command bunkers in time, bringing a formal end to the war, or